Thank you. Senator Grayson, you are recognized at your desk.
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a question to the author.
Will the author take a question?
Thank you very much. First, I have two questions. I'll just ask them both and then answer all in one. The first one is the actions taken by Texas, are they permanent or temporary? And does Texas practice mid-cycle redistricting? And then, so that was a two-part question, the first one. The second question is for redistricting bills, I believe there was some reference made to that. Could there be, could the author elaborate on what was talked about as far as some redistricting bills that had been opposed?
You may proceed.
Thank you for the question. And yes, first question, Texas's actions, their action yesterday is actually permanent. There is no temporary aspect to the gerrymandering they just approved yesterday through their House. Mid-cycle redistricting is a constant, and there's no input for Texas voters to weigh in. Very opposite from what we're doing here. Ours is temporary until 2030. And of course, we're letting the voters decide whether to do this mid-cycle or not, which we are doing through a constitutional amendment. So we are absolutely doing that. On the second piece, thank you for your question on redistricting. Now, as mentioned, just as of last year, there have been over 30 bills last year and up until going back to about 2014, where a number of bills had been presented in this body to support an independent redistricting commission in various parts of the state of California, in places like San Luis Obispo and Sacramento and Orange County, Riverside, Fresno, Kern, and all of those bills and efforts to establish an independent citizens redistricting committee in all parts of the state of California had been voted no by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And so I'm not understanding what they're saying in terms of wanting now an opportunity to have an independent redistricting commission be the end all, say all, while we're sitting here getting attacked by President Trump on our democracy.
Thank you for that additional information, if I may, through the chair. Would this, and this is just a hypothetical question on my part, or maybe not, would this measure impact any other districts outside of congressional districts? The answer is no. And another question is, who will ultimately have the final say on this matter? And the answer is the voters of the state of California. Senators, I rise in support of this measure. Throughout my life and throughout my career, I've been guided by some very simple and basic values. First and foremost among them, fairness and respect, with commitment to be fair and respectful of my neighbors, and also to respect the rule of law. This is an impactful day, especially for all of us here in California, which is why the mid-decade redistricting efforts being conducted by other states certainly appear to undermine these values in pursuit of power simply for the sake of power. And what is most troubling to me is that these efforts appear to be equivalent of changing the rules of a game after it has started. Imagine a football game that is tied at halftime, and one team comes out for the second half declaring that for the rest of the game, their touchdowns are worth twice as many points. Is that just? Is that justice? Is this not the situation we face here, where a number of states have decided to change the rules of redistricting at halftime? Senators, we are literally at halftime in this redistricting match that we now find ourselves in. 5 years in to a 10-year cycle, facing the same situation as the hypothetical football game that was just described. Fairness would dictate that either all the touchdowns are worth twice as many points, or none of the touchdowns are worth twice as many points. Justice would dictate that we all abide by the same rules regardless of the game, which is exactly why we're here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Choi, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam, and the members. I rise today in strong opposition to this proposal for special election to redraw our congressional districts in California. Many points have been raised, and Texas has been described as a bad actor. Very interesting, and then also the regulations on the sports in halftime changing the rules. I would like to apply these 2 points. If Texas was a bad actor, are you supposed to follow the bad actor? If somebody runs through a red light or kills somebody, you do the same thing? I mean, that's exactly what we are trying to do. And then as a model for Texas, it's a model we now follow, whatever Texas does. If you say that that action is wrong, just let's don't do that. Isn't it more common sense? Now, many things, many points in this direction we can argue about. But let me focus on this measure is in another sense, not urgent item. It is not necessary. It is certainly not affordable. Let me focus on the financial aspect of that. In California, we have projected to face $12 billion of deficit in the coming year. You all know that. Every dollar matters. Yet this proposal would drain an estimated $250 million of general budget just to conduct a special election. This is money we do not have, and the money that could be put to far better use. Think about what $250 million can do or represents. It could finance tens of thousands of child care slots for working families. It could support the financial aid for thousands of college students struggling with tuition. It could keep after-school programs and the mental health services available for our children. It can fund the public safety and the wildfire prevention programs at a time when California depends on them most. In order to help close the $12 billion state budget deficit, the supermajority decided to cut California peer-run Warm Line in Orange County, a key program that has provided a free 24/7 mental health service to millions of residents. That was only $5 million. I was hoping that you would agree to that, but it was cut off. And here, $250 million is just pocket money to spend on this unnecessary special election, a special redrawing in the mid-decade. As a result, Orange County, where I represent the county Warm Line program, has laid off 127 staff members and is now facing to end operations completely. Think about the victims, the customers who have used this Warm Line and then also unburdened all the burdens that the 911 system is getting. And we know that the 911 system right now is answered so late because of a shortage of people with the shortage of staffing in 911 answering service. Instead of funding critical programs like these, we are being asked to throw these dollars away on a political maneuvering. This is not about the fairness. This is not about the people. And this is certainly not about protecting democracy that you all say that we let's keep the democracy, fairness. This is a partisan power grab, and it comes at the expense of Californians we are here to serve. So I ask you, my colleagues, will we tell Californians that their child care, their education, their health care, their public safety programs don't matter as much as rushed and unnecessary special election redrawing? Or we will stand with them and say no to this reckless use of taxpayer dollars? Senators and colleagues, let us show some fiscal responsibility and common sense. Please vote for no on this wasteful proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Laird, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. In 2021, a particularly egregious gerrymander was done in my district in San Luis Obispo County. It was for the Board of Supervisors districts, and it was proposed by one party, a party that was losing registration, was no longer the party with the greatest plurality in that county. And they passed a map suggested by one political committee to egregiously gerrymander that county. Under the census, minor tweaks to the existing districts would have been in order. Instead, it was jam the Democrats into one district, make the other 4 districts in a way that they likely could go the other way, and preserve a majority that didn't exist in the electorate at large. And it was gross. There were some people that would vote every 2 years for 3 cycles for supervisor. There were some that were the opposite. There were thousands of people would have 2 supervisors at once. Thousands more would have no supervisor. It was a dislocation that was off the charts. And so what happened? I introduced last year Senate Bill 977 to say we would have independent redistricting for San Luis Obispo County. We would have the commission. That egregious line drawing would never happen again for that county. And then what happened in this body? In this body, 9 senators thought that was just fine, that egregious redistricting that would have been rectified by commission is what they voted against. And it was said, just the facts on one speech, and then there were all the names that were given about those facts. Well, let me say in just the facts, it was senators from Jackson, Beaver, Bakersfield, San Diego, Sacramento, Yucaipa, and Murrieta that said, we are fine with egregious gerrymandering. We do not want a commission. We do not want fairness in redistricting. Let's be clear about that. So when it was said, what is known and when did we know it? In 2024, we knew that was an egregious redistricting, and 9 senators said it was just fine with them. It was said fair districts lead to fair representation, but 9 senators said not in San Luis Obispo County. It was said that politicians should not pick their voters, but was fine for 9 senators in San Luis Obispo County. It was said that we are witnessing a partisan power grab. We witnessed one there, and it was fine for 9 senators in San Luis Obispo County. So let's just call that what it is. We have born-again commission lovers here. They had a chance to have the fair redistricting in different parts of the state, and it was rejected. And so I just think it's fair to expose that level of partisanship, because that's what's going on. And I think now we have a national crisis and we are responding, and I ask for an aye vote on AB 604.
Thank you. Senator Grove, you are recognized at your desk.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I rise in opposition of this redistricting package, all three bills that are coming before us today to redraw congressional lines. The move undermines the will of the people and the voters of this state. I don't wholeheartedly agree with the actual commission, the people that are on the board of the commission, but I don't agree that legislators should be able to draw their own lines either. And I'm a legislator, and I don't think I should be able to draw my own lines. I think the people should be able to pick the people they want to have them represented, and it should be that a standard across the United States. I listened to your comments, and I really wasn't going to speak, but I listened to all the comments, and it's all about transparency, and this has been transparent. Colleagues, this bill was put in print on Monday. We had a hearing on Tuesday. On Tuesday, when the hearing took place, both election chairs in the Assembly and the Senate could not answer one question: who drew the lines? The Assembly election chair said it was a collaboration. The Assembly election chair said it was a leadership. Leadership, what leadership? Give us a name. The individual who was providing technical assistance in that committee would not answer any questions about who they were, who they represented, who was paying them. This is a public process, and you're asking from the dais, who do you represent? I'd rather not answer that question. Who's paying you? I'd rather not answer that question. I mean, this is a public process where we got no answers, and you're talking about transparency. They were asked who drew the lines, and in the Assembly, the response was it was a group of leadership. It was the state legislature, and the response was, we're in the state legislature, and we didn't participate in that process. And they said, well, you're not in leadership. So then it fell on leadership. I watched the interview on our own elections chair here in the Senate. Who drew the lines? Well, the Rules Committee. I'm the vice chair of Rules. We did not participate that I know of drawing any lines. My colleague from Santa Cruz sits on Rules. He did not participate in drawing any lines. It was not the Rules Committee. They also said that the Rules Committee placed this information and the maps on the website. We didn't do that. I went back through the last 3 hearings. We did not vote to do that. No one is being truthful and transparent when we're just trying to ask questions. Who drew the lines? Did you know about the lines before it was, did you have input? And I know that's just a simple thing and it's just one thing that needs to be brought up. But if we're going to talk about transparency, this process put in print on Monday, where lines were already drawn when the bill was put in process with no public comment, because the first public comment went up on Tuesday during the hearing and the maps were already drawn and it's supposed to be a public process. That's not what we're doing here, and we're better than that. And I know the rhetoric on the other side is about Texas. Let's talk about Texas for just 1 second. Texas was sued by the Elias Group. The Elias Group, permission to read?
Permission granted.
The Elias Group is a mission-driven firm committed to helping Democrats win citizens' votes and progressives make change. That's the Elias Group. The Elias Group won a lawsuit against Texas. Like it or not, Constitution says we have 3 branches of government: the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. The judicial branch ordered the state of Texas to redraw their lines. The state of Texas complied with the judicial order, the judge's order. That's it. Now, because of the way the lawsuit was structured, Texas did take it in a way that, nobody really expected it to happen, but they did. The bottom line is that the response that California is having because of a lawsuit from a Democrat activist lawyer group in D.C., and then California jumps on this bandwagon. We're not involved in that lawsuit. We are not involved in Texas legislation, contrary to my colleague's statement. He knows no Texas legislators. I know several. They're under a judicial order to redraw the lines. For us to engage in that process, I think sends a bad message across the nation, because that old adage, so goes California, so goes the nation. There is no doubt in my mind that other states will look at what we are doing to offset Texas, which is a judicial directive, a judgment against Texas to redraw those lines, and looking at what we're doing. And again, they're
their policy is different. Legislators can redraw those lines. Our policy is separate. It's a constitutional amendment where we have a citizens redistricting committee, and we as legislators can't draw the lines, and no one in this body will answer the question, including the author that's presenting or the presenter this morning, the majority floor leader. It was asked by my colleague 3 different ways. Who drew the lines? And there's still no response. Why is that such a hard question? If you look at what's happening, it's gonna, so goes California, so goes the nation. And I'm telling you, you guys have not thought this all the way through because you don't have the votes. You just don't have the leeway that we do on our side of the aisle from a national experience. Pittsburgh can't help you. He's got 3 Republicans out of 17. Massachusetts has 0. New York, very few. This is not gonna go well for your side of the aisle coming the midterm elections, and I just don't think that you've thought that through. I can tell you that, you know, if people did participate on the lines, and you can make an assumption that you have forever congressional seats here in the state of California, and you're making those decisions because of the congressional lines that are going to benefit you for the rest of your life, it still doesn't help the voters in California or all of the people that we represent. We have serious problems to solve in this state. We have a potential of refineries closing. We've got a potential of cement businesses going out of business. We've got LA wildfires where only 4 permits have been issued. We don't need to get involved in this nonsense. The people of the state of California voted in a citizens redistricting commission. I didn't like that idea either. I did vote against it, but that's what we have. And unless that is changed in a process that is not like this, if you want to work on this next year, and I realize that you probably run out of time for the elections, but the bottom line is that this bill was put in print on Monday. The people of the state of California had Tuesday and 1 committee hearing to comment on it. That's not transparency. And in that committee hearing, no one would answer those questions. That's not transparency, and that's not the way this body should operate. I've been here since 2010. I came in the Tea Party district, and I was that rant and raving individual on the assembly floor that got my mic shut off several times. I get it. But there is a collegiality, whether you agree with policy or not, that you have on this floor, and that we have to be one of 40, right? 40 representatives of the state of California. And I'm just telling you that the way this is put together is not right for the voters. It's not right for California, and this thing is going to backfire on you. So next year, when all this goes down, I want you guys to say, just like you're saying right now, gosh, Groves has been screaming from the rooftops for 10 years regarding our oil and gas prices going up and the avenues that we're taking. And next year, you're going to go, wow, Grove was saying this is going to backfire us. Mark my words, they will pick up almost 25 mid-state congressional seats. The way this process is working is not good for us, our party, your party, or the people of this nation and this state. I support Kevin Kiley's bill that says no midterm redistricting, and that we should abide on the census every 10 years, just like it's set in place. Respectfully ask for a no vote based on the voters in this state and across our nation for this redistricting passage that has zero transparency, and even if you did have a hearing, you won't answer anybody's questions.
Thank you. Senator Valladares, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. And I, too, want to raise my mic in opposition. So I want to raise an issue that I think has been overlooked in this process, and that is communities of interest. Our Constitution is really clear. When we draw districts, we're supposed to keep communities together. Cities, neighborhoods, agricultural regions, aerospace hubs, working class communities, watersheds, school districts. These are groups of people with shared and social interest who deserve to have fair and effective representation. What we're not supposed to do is draw maps around politicians, incumbents, political parties, or the partisan advantage or disadvantage of voters. Yet, that is exactly what these maps do. To echo a lot of the sentiments from my colleagues on my side of the aisle, this process has been secretive from the very beginning. We don't know who drew these lines, or rather it's difficult for those who were involved to name names, really at this point. But we all know it was politicians, it was consultants and DC insiders that are going to all benefit from these maps. And the result is truly unmistakable. Communities of interest were ignored, they were divided, and they were sacrificed for political gain. Take Modoc County. Farmers and ranchers, people who feed the world, they're now lumped in with wealthy Bay Area neighborhoods whose daily realities couldn't be further apart. Look at Lodi, an agriculture community split 3 ways. Some bundled into Sacramento suburbs, others into Bay Area commuter towns. Instead of one strong voice in Congress, their representation is now diluted and divided. In my own district, the Antelope Valley, an isolated region with shared concerns of aerospace and defense, it's the nation's backbone for defense, for innovation. It's where America's most advanced aircraft and space technologies are designed, built, and tested. It's carved into 5 different congressional districts. This means no single representative is fully gonna be accountable to the needs of my community in the Antelope Valley. And let's talk about Sonoma County, chopped into 3 districts, silencing the ability of that community to speak with one voice. This isn't just bad mapping. This scheme is bad governance. The voters of California created an independent redistricting commission precisely to prevent this kind of power grab. They voted for fairness, transparency, and independence. The Constitution says maps are not to be drawn for politicians, for incumbents, or for parties. But here we are, with maps engineered in secret, rushed forward, and designed to benefit a few, select few. This is in clear conflict of interest, and it undermines public trust in our elections. It tells voters that their voices matter less than political insiders, and it confirms every fear they already have about Sacramento. Colleagues, this isn't about Democrats or Republicans. In my district, I represent more Democrats than I do Republicans. I want every single voter to be represented fairly. This is about the Constitution. This is about transparency. It's about whether the people of California get what they voted for, a fair and open process, not maps drawn in back rooms for political convenience. The people of California deserve better. They deserve fair maps. They deserve good government. And they deserve leaders who will honor California's Constitution, not undermine it. I cannot support this plan. And I think it's ironic to hear, in response to my colleague from Santa Cruz, how history is repeating itself. How right now we're seeing that across the nation and even in California, that Democrats have lost 2.1 million voters and Republicans have picked up 2.4 million. And further makes me question this power grab. Is history repeating itself? I urge you to vote to uphold the Constitution of California today. I urge you